If you're tired of pests playing havoc with your garden, there is an all-natural spray you can make with a flower you're probably already growing, marigolds. In fact, there are many ways that marigolds can help protect your garden, and in this video I'll share what those are and the most effective ways to use them. Right then, let's get straight into it by making ourselves this marigold spray. Now this works because marigolds contain certain compounds within them that, once extracted, can be used to massively reduce the risk of a pest attack. Now what I'm doing here is a bit of a desperate situation. I haven't got enough marigolds, so I've bought some and grown them on a little bit to sort of harvest our material, and I'm getting 2 packed cups fulls worth. Now these will branch out once I've cut them and absolutely be fine, and I'll plant them out, so it's not as bad as it looks, so please forgive me. Marigolds are often touted as the go-to pest repelling flower, but some of the claims made for it aren't simply true. They won't, for example, deter deer or indeed slugs or snails, all of which are rather partial to marigolds in fact. And they won't deter pests like spider mites and aphids, at least as they are. But by making a spray, we can unleash the pest repelling properties contained actually within the plant to give us a really effective spray that will help deter a suite of pests like caterpillars and aphids. So I've got my 2 cupfuls of stems, leaves and flowers, and oh, that has such an amazing smell, and that's exactly what we want because it's all this good stuff in here that we're going to extract now. So to do that, I'm going to start by crushing them up. Now you could use a pestle and mortar, for example, or even a blender. That would be super quick and efficient. I'm going to sort of tearing them apart like this and then bashing them up with a rolling pin like this. And just kind of, all this does is it's going to speed up the process at which the good stuff, the compounds in the leaves and flowers, are released into the water. It's kind of cathartic too, isn't it? There's a lot of often contradictory advice surrounding marigolds. In fact, in their natural state, uncrushed up, they are susceptible to many pests just like other crops. And in fact, many gardeners use this to their advantage, planting marigolds near to their crop plants as a sacrificial plant or trap crop. The idea being that these guys get infested with the likes of aphids or Japanese beetles first, taking the hit ahead of your crop plants, and then they can get nicely infested and you can simply lift up the entire plant, complete with your pests, and pop it on the compost heap. Got all my frustrations out, and these are nicely chopped up into tiny pieces. So now I'm going to put this into a lidded container here. I'm going to do 2 bottles of it, and then to each one I'm going to add about half a litre, or what's that, about a pint of, or 2 cupfuls of water. Don't be put off by the suspicious colour of this, it's just rainwater from the barrel. So put the lid on. These can now rest in a cool, dark place for about 5 days to give enough time for all the goodness in the leaves and flowers to seep out into the water. And here is some that I steeped earlier, and it's ready to filter out the sort of solids from the liquid there. So you can use any kind of cheesecloth or muslin cloth, and if you don't have that, then a pair of old pantyhose or tights or a tea or dish towel, something like that, just to strain off the liquid. Squeeze out every last precious drop, and there we have our concentrate. Nice. To use this, I'm just going to add equal parts just normal water, and then to help it stick to the foliage so it doesn't just run straight off, just a couple of drops of Castile soap. Now this is a completely natural, completely safe soap. It's okay to use in the garden. And then just give it all a mix together, and then we'll put it into our spray bottle. Like mixing a cocktail, isn't it? Marigold spray is a preventative spray that's best applied to plants before the risk of pests really escalates and before they actually arrive. Now just spray it onto your plants like this all over, maybe once a week, perhaps a little more often if it is quite rainy. And this is great for really susceptible crops like cabbage family plants to protect against aphids and caterpillars. Another way to deter pests is to plant marigolds alongside at-risk plants, because they do in fact deter some pests. Now researchers at Iowa State University found that interplanting zucchini or courgettes with marigolds did in fact help to reduce incidents of squash bug and cucumber beetle attack. So if you have had problems with those pests before, that may be a strategy worth deploying for your zucchini or indeed squash plants. But perhaps the most common pairing of marigolds is indeed the tomato, because it's said to deter whitefly. Now, a recent study out of Newcastle University shows that this long asserted and held assumption, passed down and parroted through generations, may in fact have some legs. Using large-scale glasshouse trials, the scientists found that planting marigolds next to tomatoes really did slow down the growth of whitefly populations. So why is that? Well, it's because marigolds emit an aromatic compound called limonene, the same limonene as found in citrus plants. As marigolds grow, they release limonene from their leaves, which dissipates amongst the tomatoes to help mask its own aroma. Now, whitefly rely on plant odours to help detect their host plants. So if it's confused by the limonene, well, it's going to be harder to detect. It's as if our tomatoes here have put on an invisibility cloak. To max out this effect, you'll need to get your marigolds planted at the same time as your tomatoes, so they're protected from the off. Indeed, if you're in a warmer climate, try and get those marigolds in 1 month, even 2 months ahead of your tomatoes, so they're protected with all that lovely limonene right from day one. I try to be as generous as possible with my marigolds, planting at least 1 to every 2 tomatoes, but when they look so good, well, that's hardly a hardship, is it? Now, in an enclosed environment like a greenhouse or tunnel, it's going to be more effective, isn't it? Because the limonene isn't going to get blown away by the wind, but I still include them outside as well, because they have other benefits too, including attracting a legion of beneficial bugs, and more on that in a bit. If you've ever suffered from root knot nematodes, you'll know how difficult they can be to get rid of. What happens is the females lay their eggs into little galls that they've made on the roots of the plant, those kind of lumpy, bumpy bits that you see. The young then hatch, feed on the roots and severely weaken your plants, and even killing them in worst case scenarios. Well, would you believe it, marigolds can help with root knot nematodes too. Now this time the impact is coming from the roots of the plant, which release a compound called alpha-terthionyl. Now this is toxic to nematodes, killing them on contact and inhibiting egg production. The nematodes won't die though unless they come into direct contact with that alpha-terthionyl. So to really get the best effect from it, we actually need to dig it into the soil so it's spread out and pulverised throughout the soil. The easiest way to do that is to grow your marigolds anywhere up to say 1 foot tall, and then just hack them down and dig them into the soil. Do that and you'll get a double whammy of compounds from both the leaves and the roots there, making your soil a pretty hostile environment for chancing nematodes. Grow marigolds densely as a cover crop or green manure in the same area you will be growing your vegetables. And just like any other cover crop, when you dig them in, it'll contribute valuable organic matter, contributing to your soil's structure and overall fertility. In time, root knot nematode populations will recover, so if they have caused you headaches in the past, then consider including marigolds as part of a crop rotation to naturally cleanse the soil ahead of susceptible crops. Or for those in cooler climates or with a shorter growing season, consider mustard as a fast-growing alternative. And the real advantage of mustard is that it can be sown towards the end of summer, quickly to get in there before the autumn once most other crops have finished. But perhaps the most compelling reason for including marigolds in your garden is the very long list of beneficial bugs they will attract. Bees and butterflies, of course, but also ruthless predators like ladybugs or ladybirds, lacewings, tiny parasitic wasps, hoverflies and syrphid flies, the list goes on. Having these guys on site will create a really thriving, balanced garden ecosystem where pests rarely get out of control. For this reason alone, I reckon it's worth dotting marigolds about here, there and everywhere among your vegetables, where they will also add little splashes of colour to cheer up even the weariest gardener. And indeed, marigolds is one of the many companion plants you'll find in our garden planner here. And if I click some marigolds here, and then the Show Companions button, well, there's a long list of vegetables and other plants that marigolds are proven to help. I love marigolds because they grow in most soil types and they're very tolerant of both heat and drought, and they're super easy to start from seeds. Now in warmer climates you can just sow them directly. In cooler climates like mine though, I just sow them into pots or trays, and then once I've done that I secure a little bit of clear plastic over the top to create a nice humid microclimate. I germinate mine indoors, just bring them inside to a warm windowsill. Then once they are up, I transfer the little seedlings into their own pots or plugs to grow on until it's safe to plant them out after the last frost. Pinch off old flowers once they've died off to keep the show going for longer. And at the end of the season, you can leave some of the flower heads here to develop fully into seeds to collect your own seed to sow the following season. This is really easy to do and the seed is super viable. Look, you can see here, these are almost mature. Now I've had some great success with little volunteer seedlings just popping up even after a frosty winter, and I carefully dig them up to relocate them elsewhere. You may not realise that you can eat the petals of marigolds as well, and they have a slightly citrusy tang, thanks no doubt to that lovely limonene they produce. Now pluck out the petals and include them in salads for a touch of colour, or pop them into drinks for a punch of pizzazz. The petals also help to stain things slightly yellow, so it's worth including them with the likes of puddings and rice, earning them the reputation as poor man's saffron. Including marigolds as part of a pest control strategy further reduces our reliance on nasty chemicals, and if nothing else, well, they are a truly joyful addition to the garden, aren't they? I'll catch you next time.